Live Zoom session. Hopefully I'll be able to say something beneficial to everyone today. So we'll start by reciting the invocation mantras on text 1. Om Meganya Tamarandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshu Litam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakans Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchkana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Trivyachcha Kripa Sindhivyeva cha Pititanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Chapter 11, text 49. First we will recite the Sanskrit in unison and then the translation. My text 49. Matevya dharma cha vibudha bhavo drishva rupam goram idrin mamedam vyapeta viprityamana punastvam tadeva me rupamidam prapashya. Translation. Your mind has been perturbed upon seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbance. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Text 50. Sanjaya uvacha idyarjunam vasudeva statuktva swakam rupam darshayamasa bhuya ashvasayamasya chapitam enam Bhutva Somya Vapur Mahatma. Translation. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last he showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. Text 51. Arjuna Uvacha Drishtvedam Manusham Vam Avasuryam Janarja Idanim Tasmi Samrita Sacheta Prakritim Gataha. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, my mind is now pacified and I am restored to my original nature. Text 52. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudardarsham idam rupam dristavan asiyan mama deva apyasya asya nityam darshana kanchivinaha. The Blessed Lord said, "My dear Arjuna, the form which you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear." Text 53. Naham vedar na tapasa na danena na chesha shakya evam vidrashtum drishta man asimam yata. The form which you are now seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. 54. Bhakjatvananyaya shakya aham evam vidorjuna vyatun drashtun chat atmina prevashtucha param tapa. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Text 55. Mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjita nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamam iti bandhava. Translation. My dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me. Chapter 12, Text 1. Arjuna Uvacha Evam Satata Yukta Ye Bhaktas Tvam Paryupasate Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Esham Te Yoga Vidkamaha. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect, those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Text 2. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Vishya Mano Ye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Shradaya Parayo Petas Te Me Yuktatma Mata. The Blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. Text 3 through 4. Ye twaksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupastate sarvatrakam achintyam cha kutasam achalam dhruvam saniyam indriya gramam sarvatra samabhutaya te prapnuvanti tvameva sarva bhuta devata. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Text 5. Last text. Klesho dikatarastesham avyaktachetasam avyaktahi gatirdukam dehavadvir avapyate. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So we'll go back to chapter 11, text 49. Your mind has been perturbed upon seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbance. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. In the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfathers and masters. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When they tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty they should be killed. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the four-armed form, and Krishna showed him. A devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. A devotee wants to offer his respectful, worshiping feelings. Thus, he wants to see the two-handed or four-handed Krishna form so he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami, Maharaj, would you like to speak? So Krishna is giving a benediction to Arjuna. It reminds me of like the closing messages they used to, or when I would attend the Presbyterian church in my hometown, they would say a benediction at the end of the service, like, now go in peace and follow these teachings that we've taught you. It was something like that. It was very like enlivening, like some enlivening words for departing, basically, at the end of the service. So I kind of think about that when I hear Krishna saying that he's finishing the whole universal form being displayed to Arjuna, and he's saying, don't be disturbed anymore. And with a peaceful mind, now you can see the form you desire, which is the two-armed form that we also see. We also try and want. We also want to see Krishna's two-armed form. It's his most intimate form. In the purport, we hear from Prabhupada that Arjuna was worried about killing his family members. He was disturbed by that. But by seeing the universal form, he could understand that his family members had already perished. And they didn't just perish for no reason. They perished because of their negligence at doing what is right, basically. That being at the disrobing of Draupadi. There was all of the Pandavas were there, and many of those who are now on the side of Dhritarashtra were there. And they just stood by while Draupadi was being disrobed. And for that, they're incurring some reaction. And so Krishna is showing that through the universal form. And I like this sentence that Prabhupada said, that scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful and they cannot perform such horrible actions. When I first encountered bhakti, or first started getting involved with bhakti, I was trying to practice the teachings of Christ, specifically with a focus on his teachings as being non-violent. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So one doesn't typically, in the sane mind, kill themselves. So the inference can be made that one should not kill anything. And so I was trying to act that out. And for me, it was kind of hard to get over the violence of the Bhagavad-gita at first. I didn't quite understand why or why a philosophy would have this, but they want their followers to be peaceful. Of course, I understand now that there's different varnas that people have. Some might be kshatriyas, which take up the role of defense, but they don't take up the role of disrobing someone like Draupadi. That's not their action. So they do things to protect dharma, to protect religious principles, which are peace, love and happiness. Those are all things that we try to practice. We love Krishna, and in that way, we can also love everyone else. We're part and parcels of him, so we can show that love that he has for us to others. And we're all connected. And so that because we're all connected and we're connected to Krishna, we're able to show that love to everyone around us. We'll go to the next text, text 50. Shri Shukrani Tai Ki Jai. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last he showed him his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. Purport. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as a four-armed Narayan. But when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-armed form of Krishna, but since he asked to see this four-armed form, he also showed him this form again, and then showed himself in his two-handed form. The word Somya Vapuhu is very significant. Somya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone was attracted simply by Krishna's form. And because Krishna is director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna. Premanjana Charito Bhakti Vilochanena. Only those with love, with the pulp, the salve of love can see Krishna. So it's not something and it's something that's bestowed upon us. It's not something that we can do anything to get. Of course, we should practice devotional service, but we can't order Krishna to show us his form. We have to try to follow Krishna's teachings and the order of the spiritual master. And in that way, through Krishna's grace, we'll be able to see his form one day. But we know that's for the pure devotee. They just want to serve Krishna, and be steady in their service to Krishna. And in that way, the pure devotee is happy. So Krishna displayed his universal form, and then his four-armed form, and then his two-armed form. So Arjuna was able to take darshan of those three forms. And through that, we can understand who Krishna is even more, because Krishna has many different forms. And like Radhastali was saying last night, there's the four-armed form, there's so many different arrangements that the club, disc, conch shell, and lotus flower are arranged. And through those arrangements, we can understand which form it is. Like Aniruddha has one form. Narayan has one form. So from those different arrangements, we can understand which one that is. But for the devotees, the two-handed form is the most precious. Text 51. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "Seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, my mind is now pacified, and I am restored to my original nature." Purport. Here the words Manusham Rupam clearly indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be originally two-handed. Those who deride Krishna to be an ordinary person are shown here to be ignorant of his divine nature. If Krishna is like an ordinary human being, then how is it possible for him to show the universal form and again to show the four-handed Narayan form? So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad-gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the greatest injustice. Krishna has actually shown his universal form and his four-armed Vishnu form. So how can he be an ordinary human being? A pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad-gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad-gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commentators. So by reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita as it is, we can have a clear understanding of who Krishna is. He's not the unborn within. He's an actual person. He has a form. He has activities. He has relationships. He's actually never alone. He's always with his devotees. So we should not be confused by this. Of course, we can become distracted by the universal form and not pay attention to Krishna's two-handed form. But that's based on our desire, and that's one realization. You know, impersonal Brahman is one realization. It's not the topmost, which we're trying to understand the topmost teaching, that Krishna is a person. And of course, all of the impersonal Brahman is emanating from him. And all of the other incarnations are emanating from him, just as like we can understand this by thinking of a candle being lit, and then each subsequent candle is lit from that candle, and then from that candle is lit. So they're all connected back to the original source, Krishna. But those who are distracted by this impersonal form, or sometimes they call the universe, or their divine love, Krishna is all those things. But if they're thinking that, then they have some desires to enjoy in a certain way. And so those desires, they're keeping them from truly having a loving relationship with Krishna. So when we meet these individuals, the best thing to do is try to, give them prasadam, and slowly they can come to a higher realization, and they can understand the nectar that is Krishna consciousness, the relationships that we have in Krishna consciousness, because everybody wants a relation, everybody needs a relationship, everybody wants a relationship. And relationships with devotees are so sweet because They're not based on, ultimately, they're not based on any kind of sense gratification. They're truly based on serving Krishna together. And one who gets a little taste of that kind of relationship and understands what that relationship is, they won't ever want to go back to having the relationships they've had before because they weren't fulfilling. So the relationships we do have in Krishna consciousness, we should be grateful every day. We should understand how fortunate we are to be in the association of devotees. Or, we get that association maybe once a week if we're living outside the temple, or twice a week. And so coming to the temple to associate with the devotees is a very important process in becoming, or in developing as a bhakta. It's quite difficult, or maybe it's impossible, to become Krishna conscious without the devotees. Because how would we know how to serve Krishna if it weren't for the devotees? And this, of course, includes a spiritual master who gives us the knowledge. He takes away the darkness of ignorance so we can understand these teachings. There's many ways we can have relationships with devotees. We can exchange prasadam. We can reveal our mind and hear someone revealing their mind in confidence. We can exchange gifts. And of course, we can, have Krishna Katha together, because ultimately, those who want to become Krishna conscious are continually trying to hear the glories of Krishna. Something that I like to do with Radhastali is read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's a form of Krishna Katha. We're attempting to slowly replace material thoughts with thoughts of Krishna. And to uproot all the unwanted things, all the anarthas that we have, so we can be fully fixed in devotional service and serving the devotees nicely without any ulterior motives. But that process takes time. The cleaning takes time. I can speak for myself. The dust that's on the mirror of my heart is very thick. But thankfully, Lord Chaitanya, he came to show us the most sublime method of cleaning that mirror, which is the chanting of the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the more we clean that mirror, the more we clean our hearts, the more we want to chant, and the better our chanting will get. And then hopefully we'll find ourselves in a place where we can chant constantly. Text 52. The blessed Lord said, "My dear Arjuna, the form which you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear." So Krishna is very fortunate. The devotees are very fortunate because they get to see the most dear form of Krishna, the two-handed form. Text 53. The form which you are now seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. So only devotional service, that's the only way. Bhaktyamama vijananti yavanyaschasmi tatvataha. In the 18th chapter, Krishna explains this again to Arjuna and to us, so we can know what to do in life, and that's devotional service. That's how we're going to build our relationship with Krishna. It's the only way. But it's a sublime and blissful way. Text 55. My dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me. So we have to be focused, or I'd like to be focused on attaining that pure devotional service, something that's not stained with material sense gratification, fruit of activities, or mental speculation. And that way, I can, or we can, attain pure devotional service. We don't have to there's no other goal in life. Because if we think about it, the time when we're going to leave our body, we don't know when that is. But generally, the average lifespan's in the 70s in the United States, maybe a little longer for devotees because we try to live a very clean lifestyle. But that's not much time. That's only, for me, 40 some years from now. So in one sense, I feel a little pressure to really focus on this Krishna consciousness, because who knows what situation will be in my next life. Who knows what situation will be in our next lives. So if we really pray to Krishna for him to help us clean our hearts, and of course the Maha Mantra kind of does that automatically. Of course, we have to have, it's our endeavor, but it comes if we're sincere. We're sincere about our practice, if we're strict with following the regulations laid out by the acharyas, and if we're serious to understand Krishna consciousness. We're not, because if some devotees might be a little bit more casual about their practice. But I heard this little saying the other day from S.P. Keshava Swami that if someone's casual, they might become a casualty. Because the material energy of the Lord, Maya, is very strong. It can, if we just let in a little bit, it could just throw us right back into old habits that aren't conducive to spiritual practice. But if we remain serious, then we can make advancement. And at some point, we'll come to some point where we won't fall down anymore. It exists. We become so fixed in our practice that we won't fall down anymore, and the only way is up. So I pray that someday I'll get there. And I pray for you. all the devotees here that they'll get there too. Chapter 12, text 1. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect, those who properly engage in your devotional service or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Purport. Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes. One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord. The impersonalist engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest. If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists. Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better. There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service to him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct and is the easiest means for association with the Godhead. In the second chapter, the Lord explains that a living entity is not the material body, but is a spiritual spark, a part of the absolute truth. In the seventh chapter, he speaks of the living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme Whole and recommends that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. In the eighth chapter, it is stated that whoever thinks of Krishna at the moment of death is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, Krishna's abode. And at the end of the sixth chapter, the Lord says that out of all the yogis, he who thinks of Krishna within himself is considered to be the most perfect. So, throughout the Gita, personal devotion to Krishna is recommended as the highest form of spiritual realization. Yet there are those who are still attracted to Krishna's impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence, which is the all-pervasive aspect of the absolute truth and which is unmanifest and beyond the reach of the senses. Arjuna would like to know which of these two types of transcendentalist is more perfect in knowledge. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna. He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure. The impersonal manifestation, either in this world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the absolute truth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna. This important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the absolute truth. The Bhagavad-gita has all the answers on spiritual matters. So we're very fortunate to hear from Prabhupada this nice summary of the Gita. And then ultimately Arjuna's question here. Krishna answers it, saying that he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be the most perfect. So we're trying to practice this most perfect bhakti yoga. And through that practice, hopefully we can all attain pure devotional service. I'll stop there. Is there any questions, comments, corrections? Yes, Prabhu.
Oh, I was just thinking about this while we were during the beginning of class, but I really want to know if would it be ignorant of us to not appreciate what Krishna has given us? And if so, then why? Why is what's the reason behind this? I know that we're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be very grateful, but I don't know why. Thank you.
Sometimes when there's a lack of gratitude, one can take things for granted. So there's this like saying, like, count your blessings. So many seemingly negative things could happen throughout our day or throughout the week. And if we focus on those, it can get us down. So by practicing gratitude, we can maintain the equal mind of understanding that there's so many things that are happening to us that are beneficial for our spiritual practice. Even these seemingly negative things can also be beneficial to our practice. So having that practice of gratitude, or simply, just sincerely chanting the Maha Mantra, that's being grateful too. There's many different ways of thinking about gratitude. But if you find yourself in like a negative state of mind or a little bit depressed, then understanding or counting the blessings that we have can elevate us out of that depression. Instead of focusing on the negative, we'd focus on the positive. Especially in the neophyte stage, it's easy to get down about things. But as we practice more and more, it becomes easier to uplift ourselves and not fall into a rut. Although those will happen, but we can attempt to be equipoised in that also. And know that is just temporary. These ups and downs are just temporary. Magadari Prabhu?
Mother Andrea asks here, is it wrong to practice gratitude simply because of the proven scientific benefits to the brain?
That's there. But if we're just so the ultimate is recognizing that Krishna's hand is in everything. So that's ultimate gratitude. And that's actually logical because Krishna is the source. So this place didn't just come out of nothing. So if we recognize that the place didn't come out of nothing, then we can admit who the source is and have gratitude towards Krishna. So that's what I would kind of think about, because he's arranging everything for our purification and for our advancement in spiritual life. Yeah. I mean, because having gratitude for gratitude's sake, we don't just, I try not to, I'd have to think about this more. That's all I have to say about it for now. I'd have to think about that more. Yeah. I hope that was okay. Please forgive me. Please forgive me, devotees, for any offenses or anything that I've made. Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki. Panchakalpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhueva Cha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.